God bless you. I'm giving a brief review on becoming a godly woman. This was what I gave before the year ended last year, and we were not able to continue on it. So I do want to give like a brief review on it, and tomorrow I'll finish up on the study, hopefully. Otherwise, we'll continue another time. So this part is about know your enemy. We as godly women have a spiritual, not just becoming a good wife, good mom, but also in the spiritual aspect, we should be godly and know how to our enemy and know how to fight him. So when we are born, we immediately join a spiritual war. At the second that we as women become pregnant, we even enter a motherly war. As a mother, we endure things with our child, and we must learn how to fight in this war and fight for our children. And who are we fighting? Now, Colossians 1:16 through 17 says that for by him being Jesus, for by Jesus were all things created, that are in heaven and that are in earth, visible and invisible, whether they be thrones or dominions or principalities or powers. All things were created by him and for him, and he is before all things, and by him all things consist. So, and this is a very revealing verse where we learn who created us, who created the earth and everything in it. We also realize who created the angels and demons and the ranks and positions that they have. Because it says here that he created things that are visible and things invisible. And angels, of course, are invisible, and so are demons. So all things were created by him and for him. And Jesus is before all things. He is the head, the leader, the king of everything that he created. And we know of an archangel that rebelled against God and wanted to be like God. And we know that his name was Lucifer. And here in Ezekiel 28, we're going to be reading about Lucifer. And also in the next slide, in Isaiah 14, we'll also read about Lucifer. So this is Ezekiel 28, verses 12 through 19. You were the signet of perfection, full of wisdom and perfect in beauty. You were in Eden, the garden of God. Every precious stone was your covering: sardius, topaz, and diamond, beryl, onyx, and jasper, sapphire, emerald, and carbuncle, and crafted in gold were your settings and your engravings. On the day that you were created, they were prepared. You were an anointed cherub, guardian cherub. I placed you. You were on the holy mountain of God. In the midst of the stones of fire you walked. You were blameless in your ways from the day you were created, till unrighteousness was found in you. In the abundance of your trade you were filled with violence in your midst, and you sinned. So I cast you as a profane thing from the mountain of God, and I destroyed you, O guardian cherub, from the midst of the stones of fire. Your heart was proud because of your beauty. You corrupted your wisdom for the sake of your splendor. I cast you down to the ground. I cast you to the ground. I expose you before kings, to feast their eyes on you. By the multitude of your iniquities and the unrighteousness of your trade, you profaned your sanctuaries. So I brought fire out from your midst. It consumed you, and I turned you to ashes on the earth, in the sight of all who saw you. All who know you among the peoples are appalled at you. You have come to a dreadful end and shall be no more forever. Isaiah 14:12-15. How you are fallen from heaven, O Daystar, son of dawn. How you are cut down to the ground, you who laid the nations low. You said in your heart, I will ascend to heaven above the stars of God. I will set my throne on high. I will sit on the mount of assembly in the far reaches of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will make myself like the Most High. But you are brought down to Sheol, to the far reaches of the pit. So we see here Lucifer wanted to be like God. He wanted to make himself like the Most High. That beauty that he had made him conceited. It made him like, wow, I'm the best thing here that he created, and I should be worshipped. And with him, he rebelled and took other angels. And these other angels, we call them the fallen angels. And a lot of people believe that they're like the demons. And here in Jude 1:6, we learn that that's not what they are. Jude 1:6 says, and the angels who did not stay within their own position of authority, but left their proper dwelling, that they were angels, they had this authority and they left the proper dwelling. So he has kept in eternal chains under gloomy darkness until the judgment of the great day. So these fallen angels, God is keeping them in eternal chains under gloomy darkness. So they cannot be the demons if they are being chained up. So now I added a couple of verses here. Isaiah 45:7. I form the light, and this is God speaking. I form the light and create darkness. I make peace and create evil. I, the Lord, do all these things. And the Amplified Version, it says that God is causing peace and creating disaster. And I've heard so many people, especially like the atheists, like they'll take this verse and they say, how would God make peace and create evil? Like, how would he create disasters? How would he do things on purpose? And a lot of people will take this and say, I will not believe in God because he's evil. Like, how would he create good and bad? And a lot of people don't realize that through disasters and through crisis, people will come to God. A lot of the times God allows things to happen in our lives. And through suffering and crisis, a lot of people come to God. And God as the Father, he corrects and punishes his children. And it's to bring forth people full of trust and faith in God. To give us a future and hope in him. And Second Chronicles 7:14, it says, if my people which are called by my name shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven and I will forgive their sin and will heal their land. Jeremiah 29:11 says, for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans for welfare and not for evil, to give you a future and a hope. God may be creating or allowing the devil, because God gives, permission to Lucifer or the devil to put things, on countries, put things on certain people, on a certain state, a certain city. God may give him permission to do these things, but in the middle of it, it is as the verse says here, it's these plans that I have for you, they're to give you a future and a hope. It is for you to be able to realize, hey, he is God. He knows what he's doing. And because of this suffering or grief that I'm going through, I'm going to realize that he is my God who supplies my needs. He's the God that gives me strength. He's the God that helps me to keep going forward. And this is going to bring us to that great future in eternity with him. In Romans 5:3-4, it says, not only that, but we rejoice in our sufferings, knowing that suffering produces endurance, and endurance produces character, and character produces hope. And that's not easy. Rejoicing in suffering, rejoicing when someone passed away, rejoicing when you lost your job, rejoicing when everything is going wrong. And even Paul says, rejoice always. Like, what? How am I supposed to rejoice always? Like, what? But it is through his strength, and as the verse says, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. So through Christ and through his strength, I can rejoice. I can be in peace. I can go through this trial and tribulation that I'm going through. Now, I made a list here of some of the different names of Lucifer because we are learning about him, and I wanted to bring forth who he is, what he does. So the name Lucifer means the shining one, and that's in Isaiah 14:12. We also just read he is the anointed guardian cherub. We just read that in Ezekiel. He's also known as Satan. Satan means adversary. I'm not going to read all the verses. You guys can look them up if you want. The old serpent means crafty. He's the great dragon, or it means terrifying. The evil one, the destroyer, the tempter, the prince of this world, the prince and power of the air, the god of this world, the prince of the devils, or demons. Other versions will say demons. He is the accuser. He's the father of lies. Now, what does the Bible say about the devil? And like I said, I'm not going to read all the verses, but I'll read what I wrote. He's been sinning from the beginning. He is a murderer from the beginning. He does not stand in truth. There is no truth in him. He speaks lies. He is a liar. He is a stumbling block. Prowls like a lion looking for who to devour. He makes schemes against us. He takes advantage of us. His mind is set on human things. He can fill a heart. He can enter a person like he did with Judas. He puts strongholds on minds. He corrupts minds, or there's other versions will say that he leads the mind away from God. He can tempt you. He came to steal, kill, and destroy. He can blind the minds of unbelievers. And when I read this, I was really thinking about not just the people in the world, the sinners, or those who just don't serve God, but there are a lot of Christians who they may say they call themselves Christians, but they don't believe in God. They don't believe that He can do, a miracle for them. And sometimes we even pray, and we'll be like, God, healed that person, but when it comes to me, I don't think God's gonna do that for me. We have like this doubt, and we have this unbelief that God won't do it for us. And the devil can come and blind our minds and make us think, that, okay, well, God's not doing anything about my situation, so I'm not just going to serve him anymore. So many Christians have said that. So many people say, well, if God doesn't do this by this date, well, then I'm going to leave the church. I'm going to leave God. Who are you to give a date to God? Who are you to say that? It is not, God doesn't follow your will, but we follow his will. And that's a whole different story, whole different Bible study. So why am I speaking about Lucifer? Because I wanted to know why women suffer. I grew up with an abusive dad. I grew up, where I've heard of so many and have seen so many women be abused, be raped, be molested, so many things happening to women. And years ago, I really asked God, why? Why women? What's going on? Why do women suffer? That was honestly my question for many years. And I began to study on the Bible, and I began to write down and just everything that God was giving me. And I looked up women suffering in history, and I made a short list. This list I made it really brief because I gave a lot more at the actual class, but I just wrote down here a couple of them. In the Code of Babylon, men were permitted to have affairs with their servants and slaves, whereas married women would be harshly punished for committing adultery. In the Code of the Nephilim, the Hittites, and these are actually Hittites, you can actually find them in the Old Testament. If a man rapes a woman in the mountain, it is the man's wrong. He shall die. But if he rapes her in the house, it is the woman's fault. The woman shall die. The Code of Asura, or the Assyrians. If a man not knowing that a woman is a man's wife and he rapes her, the adulterer goes free. But the man shall prosecute his wife, doing to her as he likes. The man could divorce her, the man could hit her, the man could abuse her, the man could do what he wants. So the code of Moses, this is Deuteronomy 22. And I only wrote one of the things that I gave before. There was a lot of other couple of things that I gave, but this is just one of them. If there is evidence of virginity not found in a young woman, then they shall bring out the young woman to the door of her father's house and stone her. So you shall purge the evil from your midst, or the midst of Israel. And that sentence there, you shall purge the evil from your midst, it's repeated a lot in the Old Testament. Like anything bad that the people would do, like if a certain person did it, they had to go. They were stoned, they were killed, and God would say that, get them out of your midst, get them out of Israel. So here in the United States, there was in Oregon a trial from the Supreme Court, and you can actually look this up. It's Mueller versus Oregon. And in 1908, it stated that women could only work 10 hours a day because the court wanted to protect the health of women and their childbearing nature. They actually said that it was bad for their health. Because there was a woman that wanted to work more hours, and they denied her that. The boss denied her that. So then she went and she sued the boss. And they kept saying that no, it's bad for your health. So here in the United States, a person is abused in the US every 9 seconds. On average, 3 women are killed by a current or former intimate partner each day in the United States. 66% of female stalking victims are stalked by a current or former intimate partner. 1 in 4 have experienced severe physical violence by an intimate partner. 1 in 4 women are sexually abused in their lifetime. And in 8 out of 10 rape cases, the victims know the attacker. Domestic violence costs more than $8.3 billion a year in medical care and mental health services. And I put down the name of the website and where you can find this, centerforfamilyjustice.org. Now, why do women suffer? And the answer is actually found in the Garden of Eden. In Genesis 3:15, it says, I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your offspring and her offspring. He shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise his heel. And we all know this is the first promise in the Bible that we find about Jesus. But we also find 4 statements here spoken by God. Number 1, the enmity between the serpent and woman. And yes, many people believe this is Israel. And even till today, we see that Israel is just constantly, in suffering, constantly being in war, because there is this enmity between the serpent and Israel. But here we also see that it says, woman. Us women are being, attacked by the serpent. Number 2, the enmity between serpent's offspring and the woman's offspring. Number 3, the offspring of the woman will bruise the serpent's head. Number 4, the serpent shall bruise that offspring's heel. And we do know that this is the promise of Jesus, that Jesus was going to come and bruise the serpent. So who can save us women? Enmity means a feeling or hostility or hatred. And we definitely see that. Like, there are so many people that just abuse and, they do so many things to women because of hatred. And the men will feel disgust. And who can save us? The answer is found in that same verse. The woman's offspring, Jesus. And one of the many reasons Jesus came was to destroy the works of the devil. 1 John 3:8. And Jesus, when he came and left, he equipped us with things to fight against the enemy. Now, what equipment is it that we have, and how do we use it? Well, you'll learn in the next video.